Let's read the Bible together. Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. Let me give you a little bit of context. The book of Hebrews, what the author of Hebrews is doing, basically, is he is taking Jews to the Old Testament, and he is showing them how Jesus is the fulfillment of what we read in the Old Testament. And one of the things that is brought up here in chapter 4 and elsewhere is that Jesus is our great high priest. Now, you can read about the priesthood in the Old Testament, and you can read specifically about the high priest. And his role was this. The high priest was there to be a mediator between man on earth and God in heaven. And it would be impossible for perfect God in heaven and sinful man on earth to have any kind of a relationship if not for a mediator. And so that mediator was able to make relationship possible. And so that mediator had many things that he needed to do. He had many duties that he needed to perform. He had a certain specific way that he needed to live and many directions to follow so that God and man could relate to one another. Well, the author of Hebrews is telling us that Jesus has come and he is the great high priest. He is the final one. He is the last. He is the ultimate high priest. He is the one who has made it possible for sinful man and holy God to be reconciled and actually have a connection, to relate to one another, to love one another, to live with and even one day among one another forever. So, with that in mind, let's listen to what the author of Hebrews has to say here in chapter 4 and what he is saying about our relationship to God because of Jesus. This is in chapter 4, beginning in verse 14. Since then, we have a great high priest who passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession. Now here is our confession. We believe that Jesus came and lived and suffered and died and rose from the dead in our place so that we could be reconciled to God. That is the good news of the gospel. And that is ultimately, however you say it, that is what we confess. That is what we believe. We believe the good news about who Jesus is and what he has done. And so we love him and we trust him and we are following him. And we hold fast to that confession because Jesus is our great high priest. He is the one that has brought us to God. Verse 15. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. So Jesus is our great high priest. He is our great pastor who is able to understand each and every one of our struggles here on earth. Remember, Jesus is God, but Jesus is also a man. And we're reminded here that while he walked this earth, he was tempted in every respect. That means that every part of Jesus was tempted. He understands what it is like to be lured by evil. And so whatever it is that we are struggling with, he knows what that struggle is like. He knows that it's real. He knows that it's hard. He knows that it could be easy to give in, and he can sympathize. He also conquered every single time. He was undefeated. He fought sin perfectly. So who better to help us in our times of need? And then finally, verse 16. Let us then. That word then means based on what we just read in 14 and 15. Because Jesus is our great high priest, because he is able to sympathize with us in our weakness, let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace. Now, that word confidence is fascinating. That is a translation of a Greek word that is specifically referring to the kind of confidence that would be needed to speak before someone of great rank and power. So imagine someone with total authority. Imagine someone with great power and the confidence that it would take to approach them and speak to them without fear. It is that kind of confidence that we are enabled to have because of Jesus Christ. Remember, Jesus is the one who has paid for our sin. Jesus is the one who has been punished for our sin. Jesus is the one who lived perfectly and gives us his righteousness so that we can face a mighty, all-powerful God who is in complete and total control, and we're not fearful. We're not fearful that he's going to squash us. We're not fearful that he's going to shame us. We're not fearful that he's going to punish us. Why aren't we fearful? Why aren't we running from that God? Because of Jesus Christ, our great high priest. Because of him, we, with confidence, draw near to the throne of grace. That means we approach and speak to God in prayer. And don't you love how the author describes his throne? For the Christian, it is a throne of grace. What is dispensed from this mighty throne to the Christian? The answer is grace. This is not a throne of terror. It is not primarily for the Christian a throne of judgment. It is a throne of grace, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. So we come to him in time of need. Because of Jesus, we approach his throne of grace, expecting to receive grace. And then we do receive mercy and grace. Two sides of the same coin. I'm a sinner. I do wicked things. I think wicked things. I say wicked things. And so I have nothing good that I deserve from God. There's nothing good that he owes me. I have no claim to any good treatment from him. I have no right to lay hold of. The only thing that I deserve from God is punishment. Well, when God is merciful, God's mercy is God withholding from us what we deserve from him. And it is his punishment that we deserve. But because of Jesus, God was punishing him in our place, so he's able to now be merciful to us and withhold what we actually deserve, and then give us grace, which is giving us the good that we don't deserve. So think about it. What do I deserve from God? I deserve to be punished, but he gives me mercy. He does not give me what I deserve. Because I'm a sinner, what don't I deserve from God? His love, his affection, his care, his provision. But in grace, he gives me those things I don't deserve. And so with confidence now, in prayer, we draw near to God's throne, and we see it as a throne of grace. And in our time of need, we are told, we will receive his mercy and his grace.